want to learn how to make giant 18-inch amazing New York style pizza pies with a crispy bottom, super paper thin and the toppings don't slide off, the kind of thin pizza you can fold and just shove down your gullet? We're gonna make those pizzas from scratch using basic ingredients. We're gonna whip up our dough. I'll show you all how to form it and stretch it out to a perfect 18 inches. We're even gonna whip up a homemade sauce and spread just enough on there. Show you a couple different types of cheese blends so that way you can whip up the pizza of your dreams at home.
All right, so first step to getting this baller New York pizza underway is getting our dough made. I got everything pre-measured out right here. This will make it a lot easier for you. I like to do everything by weight. Makes the recipe a lot better because it goes off ratio. So all this weight is a ratio of each other. And we are going for a 64% moisture content on this dough. That is what you use. New York style pizzas are like 61, 62, but in your home oven, it's not gonna have the same kind of like heat properties as a pizza oven. So we're gonna go a little bit higher on the moisture content to allow us for a longer cook time. For ingredients, we're using flour. You wanna make sure you're using the right flour. I use the type 00. You could use all purpose. Bread flour would be better if you can't find the type O, but that's what I like using. I got a video about picking up this stuff for real cheap at the restaurant supply store. Be sure to check that out. Got our water, then we got our yeast. Y'all wanna make sure you get the right stuff. Get the rapid rise yeast, not the activated yeast. It just eliminates a step and it'll guarantee, especially for beginners, that their dough is gonna turn out right. Got a little bit of sugar and some salt. Let's go ahead and start making the dough. Mixing in a KitchenAid 6-quart, 590 watts. It's been pretty good to me. My previous one, I burnt the gears and the motor out, so when you are mixing this stuff, just be careful not to burn out your mixer. If it ends up getting a little hot, just give it a break. Start by adding the water. We have 429 grams of water, and next is gonna go in our sugar, about 9 grams, a little under what a teaspoon would be, and we're gonna do the whole pack of yeast. This recipe is gonna be enough to make 2 555 gram dough balls. Total weight, about 1,100 grams. That's gonna make 2 18-inch New York style pies. I like them big. For some reason, they just taste better.
Make some jokes about that in the comments.
We're gonna go ahead and put this on. Get it mixing at like medium speed. Just let that sugar and yeast dissolve together. Now that our yeast is combined with our sugar and water, we're gonna go ahead and put it on 2 and just slowly start adding our flour. Add just a little bit of that flour at a time until it starts to incorporate with the liquid mixture. That way you don't jam up your mixer. I did sift this flour. It's not necessary, but I buy it in bulk, so I just wanna make sure there's no lumps or anything in there. But like I said, it's not necessary. Once our dough starts to look like this, we can go ahead and start adding in the rest. Last, we're gonna add our salt. I like to use one of these little Presto, really basic kitchen bacon timers. My mom used to always use one of these. They're just super simple. You don't have to worry about pulling your phone out and Face ID, opening it to see how much longer you have on your dough. Super easy to set. Link in the description below. Now that our dough's mixed for 8 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and just leave it in this bowl, wrap it in a little plastic wrap, let it rest for 20 minutes, enjoy a beer. While that dough's resting, we'll go ahead and get the sauce made. Super simple sauce, New York style sauce. It's kind of on the thinner side. You don't really use that much of it. Some people just do tomatoes, some tomato salt. I like to add a little bit of all these ingredients, but a super small amount. The tomatoes are still definitely the star on this. We're gonna put just a pinch of an Italian seasoning. We're gonna do a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. tiny bit of sugar and a tiny bit of garlic. The subtle flavors will work really nice with the cheese and without making our sauce too overbearing or too thick. Now you're gonna want a container that you can mix it up in and preferably store it in. That makes it easy. I like these little to-go containers. You can get these at the restaurant supply store or on Amazon, or if your wife just eats a lot of pho, these things will stack up quick. And then you're gonna need something to blend it with. I like the immersion blender. You can kind of control the thickness of it, but if not, you could use a blender too. For tomatoes, we're using whole San Marzano tomatoes. This is really important. San Marzano tomatoes are just like synonymous. It's like a sauce type tomato. They grow pretty good in our garden, but of course now it's the fall and we don't have any. You definitely, no matter what you get, you want to use whole tomatoes. They're just processed a little bit less. They add some chemicals to the different purees and diced tomatoes. That way they hold their shape in the can. This doesn't have that. Olive oil, just a little drizzle. I'd say maybe a tablespoon's worth. Garlic is like that. Sugar, a pretty good pinch. I go for maybe a half a teaspoon. The Italian seasoning, really small amount. These San Marzano tomatoes are actually packed with basil in them already. If that wasn't the case, I would put fresh basil in the sauce. All right, now you don't have to blend the bejesus out of this stuff, just so those whole tomatoes are for the most part broken down, because it is packed in like a thicker tomato juice, so you don't got to turn it into a puree. If you notice, I didn't add any salt to my sauce. I kind of like it a little bit on the sweeter side for the sauce, and the cheeses I use are a little bit stronger, so they kind of get that salt out there, and also all the pepperonis I like putting on my pizza, but add salt if you like it. It's been 20 minutes, so now we're gonna take our dough and halve it. Dough blade makes this really easy. We're gonna flour the surface. Surface can really be anything. I got one of these old school kind of fast food service trays. You can pick these up, like I've been saying, restaurant supply store or Amazon. I'll put links in the description below to pretty much most of the things that you're seeing here. So if you're new or wanna level up your pizza game, you can get the stuff you need, and I'm all about doing it on a budget, so ain't none of this stuff fancy. Dough's nice and smooth. Just halve it with the dough blade. And now we're just gonna kind of knead it, knead the air out of it, and work it into a ball. Flour it as much as you need to keep it from being sticky. When you're doing this, those glutens are forming and you can feel the dough getting easier to work, but also a lot stronger. When we're done with our dough ball, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in really whatever you got. I like the little stainless IKEA bowls. They're perfect for proofing up the dough. They're about the right size for something this big, and the dough doesn't really stick. I also use a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the bowl and a little bit on top of the dough. But before we do that, we're gonna punch it down one more time. A little olive oil on the top, and then we're gonna wrap it in plastic. Now that our dough balls are wrapped, we're gonna let them sit on the counter for 2 hours and then in the fridge for a minimum of 5, but up to 24. Let's talk oven setup. We're gonna have our middle rack with a pizza stone on it, the other rack in the very top position. Preheat that oven to anywhere between 475 and 525, depending on how hot your unit gets. We're at 525. We got a big old bowl of flour there. That's why I like to buy my stuff in the bulk. That way you can just cash it out to the game. Go ahead and put that dough in there. At this point, we're just trying to get it into a general sort of disc shape, pushing down on it, getting some of those little air bubbles to lay out flat, and packing it with as much flour as we can. That's gonna make it not stick to the counter or our hands, and it's gonna make it very easy to work. First part to making a good pizza is getting that crust well defined. And we're gonna do that by pushing with the tips of our fingers. And on the back side of that, we're gonna have our other hand kind of making a curb on this pizza. You wanna push enough to kind of crimp off that little end piece so it will puff up in the oven and be a nice crust. This is a high moisture content dough made with some real high protein flour. So it's gonna be very workable. Y'all didn't make no shit dough. Next step is gonna be pushing out the little bubbles, pushing them down and sort of outwards with the tips of our fingers like this. During this step, we wanna be moving that material outward, but pay attention not to put too much force or really any at all in the center of the pizza. You just wanna keep pushing out like this. Once we get that side all punched up, we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. A little bit more flour on there and just working all that material out. Majority of the pressure on our fingers is gonna be in that outer half of the pizza, not the inner half portion, if you know what I'm saying there. So now we got our disc formed. It's probably about 11 inches now, and this step's gonna blow your mind. So now we're gonna pick it up, rest it on our fist or on our knuckles, and just turn it like this. And each time we grab it, widen our grip just slightly. See, I'm rolling it on my knuckles, that way I can evenly distribute the weight of the dough. Now we throw it on the table and we got a perfect 18 inches. And this is another reason why we like to make our dough from scratch, because we have the perfect size ball to do this. So make sure y'all are picking up a food scale so you get these ingredients measured out right. Now onto the pizza screen. You could use a peel, but I kind of make this video for people that either are new to this or don't really feel like fiddling around with a peel. And you're gonna kind of see in the technique here how we still end up with a crispy result. Also, that screen's gonna let you get another inch out of it if you're not quite good at stretching that pizza out. Now that sauce recipe we made the other day, I let it sit in the fridge overnight. Same thing with the pizza dough. The sauce kind of mellows out. It's not quite as acidic overnight. That one batch of sauce is gonna make both of these pizzas. So quite a bit of sauce on the pizza, but you don't wanna put too much, about half of that. 4 cheese blend, that's always my base cheese right there. That's Mando. It's gonna give it a lot of flavor, but you don't wanna overdo it because it will get too greasy. Then the low moisture whole milk mozzarella. Real good melting cheese. Not quite as flavorful as those others, but that's why we mix them. It's gonna melt down since it's low moisture. It's not gonna get all watery. Since it's whole milk, it is gonna have a real nice creamy consistency to it. You know, on this channel, I make a lot of cheese pizzas and pepperoni pizzas. If you notice, I haven't really been making too many crazy ones, but that's because I feel like before you can really master the pizza game, man, you got to get the cheese and the pepperoni pizzas down. Go to any place and order a cheese or pepperoni. You'll see if they're really good. All right, so now we're cooking. This is sort of a 3-tiered step. First step is going to be on the shelf that has the stone. Check out these tongs. Get you some of these too. And it's still on the screen, so that way we can pick it up and we're gonna move it to the top. And it's gonna do another 6 minutes up top. The reason why we're doing this is it's closer to the roof of the oven. That heat can radiate down and get your cheese and toppings nice and bubbly. That's the challenge of cooking in a home oven. To get the top and the bottom cooked perfectly, it's a little bit of work. But check out this trick now. You don't even have to be able to use a peel. You just slide it right off that screen. And just let it chill on that stone until it gets to your desired crispiness level. This one we did for a minute,
and it got pretty crispy. No real visual signs of kind of browning on the bottom, but it was pretty crispy. I like it a little bit more crispy. I like to do it for 4, but I want to do one of each so y'all could see. The second pie I made I did for 4. Get it out of the oven. First thing I like to do is hit it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Soaks up the grease and just adds more flavor. And then you can just slide it right off the pizza screen and onto a cardboard box or pizza box or whatever you got, and let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes before you go cutting into it so it can set up a little bit. See, this one right here, that one's been 4 minutes, but a little bit more toppings. That one's going for a little bit more crispy texture. But once that pizza sets up, you can see that your toppings aren't going to slide off. It's super duper thin. And the bottom has a nice little crisp to it. That was the one we only put on the stone for a minute. But it's still soft enough to where you can fold it, shove it down that gullet. Damn, that's some good pizza. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming by and checking out this recipe. Learning how to make some kick-ass New York style pizzas in your home oven. Got the recipe up right here. If y'all are new, please subscribe, hit that notification bell. I notice a lot of people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so that would just really help me out if y'all could do that. Also, if you got any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'm pretty responsive. Or if you got any suggestions for some stuff you'd like to see, let me know. Until next time,
Peace.